This week, I want to talk about Godzilla versus Kong, which we watched last Saturday, right?
Yeah, last Saturday we came over. We had a good
Yeah,
time. We watched Godzilla versus Kong. Everyone else fell asleep except for like you, me, and your girlfriend.
yeah, that was great. Uh, no, yeah, I want to talk about that movie. First and foremost, what were your thoughts? I want to hear your thoughts
I thought the movie was amazing by kaiju standards, right, or by
on
monster
it.
movie
Right.
standards. I thought it was great. I got exactly what I was looking for from that movie. I thought that they
Yeah,
leveled the playing field, and we know that they weren't gonna do the whole like, oh, who's gonna win, Godzilla or King Kong? That wasn't what the movie was
yeah,
about. I knew it's gonna be a third person or a third monster coming in that they have to team up with. Because come on, that's just super
that's how it
telegraphed,
works.
But I
Yeah,
love that they actually ended with like, no, Godzilla fucking won, bitch. Like,
yeah. There was a clear
there was a
winner.
clear winner, and I like that. That was pretty
Yeah,
cool. What do you think about the
you
movie,
know,
Robbie?
I enjoyed it, but I do have some gripes with it. There
Hmm.
was a my entire gripe with the movie, the action was awesome, the visuals were awesome, everything was great. What I couldn't stand was the actors, man.
Hmm.
The human element of the movie, as far as like the actual drama of the movie, I couldn't even. It pulled me out every single time, and here's why. Godzilla, the first one,
Hmm.
had a pretty decent.
2014 Godzilla, right?
Yeah, the 2014 Godzilla
Hmm.
had a pretty decent human story, with Bryan Cranston and Elizabeth Olsen, what's his Kick Ass,
Hmm.
Aaron Taylor Johnson had a really cool story until they killed off Bryan Cranston. Then it kind of
It
fart
just
in the
went off the
wind.
rails there. Yeah,
It kind of
Brian
became a
Cranston
fart in the
being up to
wind.
that point was great, but then once they killed him
Yeah,
off, that movie felt like, why is any of these other people here? you know?
yeah. It's like, why am I supposed to give a shit? And then the second one was a little bit better, in that terms. It didn't have the same like pedigree that the Bryan Cranston one had until he died.
They threw
Um,
everyone though. There was so many people in that movie in King of
it
the
was a shit ton
Monsters.
of people.
So many
Oh yeah,
actors.
yeah,
None of them had
yeah.
anything good to do. The only one who
But I'll
had it
tell you
was
this,
Ken
man.
Watanabe. He had the best moment out of the entire movie.
They threw in so many actors in that movie, but all I remember Ken Wan. That's the only guy I remember. I don't remember who. You know what I mean? Kong Skull Island, on the other hand, in my opinion, it's the strongest of the movie. It's
Oh yeah,
of the
definitely. It
four.
had the better
It's the
human
most.
element for sure.
It had the better. It was just a tight story. It was solid. It was good. Um, there was some cheesy shit, but I liked it.
Samuel Jackson just really angry at Kong for some
Yeah,
reason.
I hate these motherfucking gorillas. No, but I this one, it was almost like the human drama was the worst one out of all four movies. It was
Mhm.
the worst. Like it was the most poorly done. I like the kid. I can't think of his name right now. Julian Dennison, the kid from Deadpool 2,
Yeah.
and for the Wilder People, the Taika Waititi movie.
I'm
He
loving
was
that he's coming out in a lot of movies. I just don't think this was a good
yeah.
role for him. I mean, no one had a good role in this movie in general, at least when it comes to the
The
human
thing
people.
the thing was him and the girl from Stranger Things, Bobby Brown. They had like zero chemistry.
Yeah.
She was acting like he was some annoying kid from work. You know what I mean? And he was acting like he just wanted her to get along with him. And it just seemed like what they were, like they were just working together.
Hmm.
Then Brian Tyree Henry, the guy who played Bernie, he was in Joker. He had a small scene in Joker, and he was really good. He was overqualified for his scene in Joker. He
Hmm.
was in Arkham Asylum. He's the one that Joaquin Phoenix steals the files his mom's files. He was just uncomfortable to watch in this movie. He had weird, creepy vibes, and they try to humanize him, but his wife died and blah 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 blah. But he was just bizarre, and I'm like, we're supposed to like. I didn't trust him with these kids. You know what I
Right.
mean? I was like,
And,
yes,
and then what happened to
creepy.
Kyle Chandler? He was all over the second movie, and then he had like two roles in this one.
He had a
Where
cameo,
where are you? And then at the end, there you are.
right? Who the one I liked was Damien Bachir. He was
Mhm.
like a hammy villain, and he
Oh yeah.
chewed it up, and he was just real. He was real. He was real goofy. I did not like the role of his daughter. It seemed like they threw her in there just to have fodder for the beast to kill.
Mhm.
The Mecha Godzilla line was awesome. The fights were amazingly choreographed. The CG
I
was
can't
really
believe they actually
cool.
said Mecha Godzilla in the movie
Yeah,
itself.
yeah.
Because that's some, come on. It's campy, right? It's super campy.
Hmm.
You normally, if you were to treat it as a serious movie, no one would actually say that name out loud. We would know
Yeah.
it'd be Mecha Godzilla, but no one would say, "Oh, it's Mecha Godzilla."
And
Dude,
here's the
I
thing
love that they
too.
actually did use that though.
Why like I watched the whole movie. Alexander Skarsgård part. I don't even know what he did in the movie.
Oh, you
I
mean
couldn't tell you.
you mean the Captain America from Crystal Dynamics Marvel's Avengers?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. He looks exactly like him. They just made his face into him. No, but he looked he totally does, man.
I'm telling you, he looks like that.
Yeah,
He's that Captain America from that video game. Like he doesn't
he
look,
totally does.
you know,
He
like
doesn't look like, yeah.
off-brand Captain America.
Yeah, man, but the little creepy girl that goes with Kong, Rebecca Hall, all the human actors, not the CGI
I thought
actors.
the girl was okay, but I was like, why don't they give her clothes? Like, there's so many scenes where she's just wearing
Yeah,
the same thing, whether if it's
she's wearing a
snowing,
costume, man, and
where
it pulls
where
you
if
out
it's
of it.
right, like I thought that was a little weird. But
Yeah,
I thought that dynamic between her and Kong was actually cute. It made sense for the character, for at
yeah,
least for
yeah.
Kong's character.
And even then though, it's strange to see Millie Bobby Brown in a role where she's like exhibiting zero fucking charm. You know what I mean? Like she made Stranger Things,
Right. But come
and
on,
she made the second one.
no, you definitely.
She carried the second one, the second Godzilla. But there was no chemistry between her and her co-stars. The Bernie was just creepy and uncomfortable. It's like, why is he so crazy and
Mhm.
unstable? And who the fuck is trusting this guy with their kids?
Right?
And
That was
yeah,
weird. Where is this guy's like
what are his motivations? And they just walked into the compound where they're making fucking Mecha Godzilla. They just walked in,
yeah.
and oh, there it is. And it's like another thing I had a problem with was they never showed the humans and the monsters in the same shot. It was always a shot of the humans, and then you cut the camera's facing the other direction. It's a shot of the monsters. I don't. It was if they showed them, they were few and far between. But there was no establishing shot that told you that these monsters and these people are in the same location. It was all.
You just assume it because I know in King of the Monsters they show a lot of humans in the shots with the monster. Remember when
Oh yeah.
Rodan came out of the volcano
Or even
and they were
the
evacuating the city? They were on the
exactly.
same shot a lot of times.
And in Skull Island, when the lizard, the skull face lizards,
They have a
they
word, damn. Uh, yeah, I'll go
uh
ahead. I'm gonna look up that word. Hold on, because I know what they're
okay,
called. Skull crawlers. There you go.
skull crawl. Those guys, like there was a scene where they were just ripping apart all the people,
Hmm.
in like the little volcanic den. I don't know if you remember that. There was like methane gas coming from the things
Yeah, I
and
remember that one.
from these caverns, and that's when they off John Goodman. That scene, I mean, you see the creatures and the people interacting directly. They're not just an over the shoulder shot where you see the creature over there. It's like, no, these people are running, hitting, getting chewed up, getting tossed, getting whipped. Uh, I feel like Godzilla and Kong had too few of those scenes that established that these people were existing. Not like all the people were just watching it happen.
Yeah, but
So it brings me to my
you can't have because you gotta remember like Godzilla's a good guy, Kong is a good guy. You can't have them
yeah,
but strangely enough, Kong did crush that plane with that one girl, the daughter of the billionaire.
that is true.
He did
That is
that.
true.
So that was
But
the first on-screen kill that we saw from a King Kong. Because for the
that is
most part, he's been trying to protect everyone.
he killed Sam Jackson.
He did. Oh, I don't remember that. I
Did
don't
he
remember
kill
that
Sam
anymore.
Jackson? Did he stomp him out, or he fisted him, or something?
I have no
Fisted
idea.
him. Jesus
He
Christ!
fist.
He fisted Sam Jackson.
I'll be honest
Jesus
with you. I know
Christ!
Sam Jackson dies, but I don't remember how he died.
I think he like hammer fisted him, if I remember right.
Okay.
But either way, there was just a lot of little things like that pulled me out of it. I personally would like to see, even if it was just some guy on YouTube doing it. Um, I would like to see an edit of the movie that is just the monster stuff.
Right.
and just
Give us the
completely
Snyder cut.
give us the monster cut. You know what I mean? Just a monster cut of all these movies, all the fights, and then just show a title card. Blah 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 blah
Dude,
blah.
the
This is what
intro
happened in
the
between.
intro to the
Boom.
movie felt like a title card. It felt like the you know what I'm saying, the title card for both Kong and Godzilla.
Right. Yeah, that was I have to rewatch. That was a question of watching it where I'm like, I wonder if we're ever gonna get to a point where they can just have a movie where it's just Kong chilling in the jungle and Godzilla strolls by and he goes, "Hey, fuck you, man, this is my jungle," and Godzilla's like, "Nope, this is my planet," and they just start going at it,
Right.
and then they just leave it like that.
I
No
don't I don't
humans,
I don't
no
think you
this,
can,
just
because the problem is that they're both monsters. You need something to carry the story forward, and unfortunately, it's always the human element. But it's what sucks about the Transformers Michael Bay movies too, where
mhm.
the human element is like the worst fucking part of the movie, and that
That's
you're
my
just there
point
for the
though.
action.
But that's my point though. If the human element's the weakest part, why do we need it?
Because
You know what I
again,
mean?
to tell the story, I don't think you like, I don't know, I just don't feel like there I don't think there's a way, at least not that I can think of, or I haven't seen it yet, where
Right.
you can have a kaiju monster battle movie or a monster movie in general without some type of human element to
Okay.
explain what's happening, even if it's
I
badly
think I
explained.
got it.
You know,
I
see,
think
it's
I
still
got it.
explained.
So remember District 9,
Hmm.
that pseudo documentary style?
Yeah,
Remember District 9,
yeah.
the alien movie? So imagine like a National Geographic. If National Geographic shows footage of an alligator fighting a gorilla, I'm gonna watch it. And if it's like, what's his name? The guy that does the voices. What's his name? I
David
can't.
Attenborough.
David Attenborough. Um, if he's like narrating it, or someone like Morgan Freeman or someone to narrate the movie, and it's like a pseudo documentary of how these monsters act,
Right.
and I'm down. I'd watch that.
Yeah, but I feel like you can only do that once though, because then no one's gonna
Yeah,
watch it again in
yeah.
that same style.
I guess so. But my point is that the melodrama added by the people kills it for me.
But
Um,
I mean, doesn't it always? I've even seen some of the, you know me, I'm a big Godzilla fan. I've seen a lot of the Japanese flicks too, where they have the human elements too, and they're all terrible. Every one of them has been terrible.
not the first one.
The
Not the
first,
first one.
the
The
1958 one.
first, yeah, the first two, the Japanese one and the American one.
Okay,
They
that
were
one was
solid.
because they had an actual. They were just trying to tell what the nuclear holocaust had done, and you know, Godzilla. That was like the art piece, right? But then after a
Hmm.
while, they no longer. They, I feel like Godzilla was an art piece icon at the time, but then
Yeah,
but it opened the genre called the monster genre or the
right.
kaiju genre, right? And after that, it's always just been about bigger fights and again, monster battles. It's something that
I
kids
guess
can
so. I
gravitate
guess
to.
so. But I feel like there's a way. There's a way to tell a story where you don't engage in the melodrama, the damage. I mean, the body count in that movie must have been crazy. So I get it that people bring stakes to the table.
Hmm.
It raises the stakes, and you have actual you know
I also think part of it's the budget too. I would think, because again, in a movie like this, a lot of the money is going to go to the actual fight or to the CGI, right? And I'm pretty sure if a director had his way and made a good Godzilla movie, the studio wouldn't approve it. Because at the end of the day, what is it? It's supposed to be a popcorn flick. I don't think
that's true.
you're
That's
not going
true.
to get a Joker level performance out of a monster flick.
But I'm not saying that. I'm saying like if the like for example, look at the Planet of the Apes movie,
Oh
where
yeah,
the human elements, like the last three, the human elements are pretty. They're
non-existent almost.
there.
Yeah.
No, they're there. They're there. Human fucking. Woody Harrelson was pissed, and Gary Oldman. Whatever. You know, it's there. You know, but it's there to move the plot of the like when you watch those movies. You care about Caesar. You care about Koba. You care about the fucking. You care about the apes.
Yeah, but
I kind of want to. I would like to see that in one of these kaiju flicks, where it's showing maybe with that Hollow Earth shit that they fucking got into.
right.
Maybe that's something to explore.
See,
But
I
I just
always
feel
feel
like
like when it
keep
comes
it
to
in the movie.
Kong and when it comes to the apes, you can humanize them because guess what? You know, there is a human element to that species, right? How do you
Yeah,
humanize Godzilla? How do you humanize Rodan? Like that's the problem that you run into. How do you humanize a
yeah,
fucking moth? You know what I'm saying? It's just it's those parts of it that's a little
yeah.
harder for those type of creatures because Kong, come on, like Kong in the Planet of the Apes, like you mentioned, they have that human element because come on, like it's that relationship and that link that we see ourselves in those animals sometimes, you know?
I guess I understand what you're saying,
Yeah.
but I think just the melodrama, and I don't know if most of the budget does go to CGI, to be honest with you, because actors are very expensive.
Oh yeah.
Motherfuckers are throwing every actor find into this franchise. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So I don't know if that's 100% true. It might be. Most of the budget goes to the effects and blah blah blah. But these actors that they're getting, if they're I don't care. But if they, if you know, if they, they're not cheap. You know what I mean? So if they got like less actors, less human characters, and just made it about two or three people, the way the first Godzilla was
Hmm.
with Bryan Cranston and his son and the daughter, blah. That was maybe five or six actors, seven actors that that you had to watch. As opposed to the second Godzilla and this one, it was just too much. Like anytime the humans were on screen, I couldn't find myself caring.
Right.
I didn't care, So that was my complaint. My
Yeah. Yeah.
complaint. It was
No.
just that
No. I.
something's got to be done with the human element in these movies to either spice it up, integrate them more with the monsters. What happens if a kid gets stuck on Godzilla's back and Godzilla doesn't know he's there? Let's make a movie about that. You know what I mean? Like just bullshit. Like
What if you had the
anything.
opposite? What if you had that human compelling story, but the monster fight sucked or the Godzilla part sucked?
Then it would still be a bad movie.
Right, exactly.
Yeah,
I
because
think it's that balance of what makes these movies viable. Because even Pacific Rim even had the same issue too. Like Pacific
yeah,
Rim is for all intents and purposes, it's a robot versus a kaiju movie, right?
you
And
know,
it
the
had some
first one had a
dumbass
great.
characters. It had some great
Yeah,
characters too.
yeah,
But that movie had its problems. But at the end of the day, it did develop a new IP and a new world that
yeah.
hopefully gets. I was hoping that Pacific Rim would go longer. It seems like
Mhm.
they literally just stopped at the second movie, and that movie flopped, and now they're making an anime, which I did watch
Yeah,
on Netflix. I think the world of Pacific Rim is really cool. I love the concept that they introduced in
right.
that world. I just don't think it's done well, and so far, at least for the anime, the anime version is actually really good. I love the human element of the anime. I love how they integrate the monsters and the robots in the anime. But again, that's an anime. It's an animation. You get more liberties to do more creative stuff with that than a live action film.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess so. The Pacific Rim, the first Pacific Rim movie, the characters were really, the actors were all Ron, Charlie Day, and Idris Elba.
Sorry, Tito.
Oh,
Sorry, Rob. You cut off there. Can you repeat that one more time?
oh, sure, sure, sure. Uh, Idris Elba, Charlie Day, and Ron actors in the first Pacific Rim movie. That was really cool. My problem with Pacific Rim, it was kind of a slog. Like it was kind of hard to get through.
Hmm.
Like I found myself getting a little bit bored. Maybe what it is that I don't like monsters. Maybe that's what it is. But I liked Kong. I liked Godzilla, and I liked King of the Monsters. So, and I love this one. I love the action in this one. I couldn't even pretend to give a shit about the people's melodrama. Like
Hey,
I
no.
just couldn't.
Oh yeah, I didn't care
And
either. I was like, I thought all of this was
yeah,
really dumb. But you know me, like, as long as it has a good fight, as long as it has good action, I'm there
yeah.
for those moments. I'm there for those moments. That's what I'm there
Sure,
for.
sure. And they
Everything else is
executed
just whatever.
that. They executed that. But what I'm saying is that I can't call it a good movie if its entire plot, the entire thing that's driving its plot, and the entire thing that I'm supposed to connect to is the weakest point.
Oh, I don't
Like,
think anyone ever calls these movies a good movies. It's like I don't think
I agree.
critically these could ever, at least these last couple ones, have ever been good
Yeah,
movies. But they've been good. They've been some of the best kaiju movies I've seen from a Western film developer. I'm sorry, not film developer. Film. What's it called? Film studio.
uh,
Sorry.
yeah, yeah.
From who makes these? Legendary, right?
Warner Brothers.
Warner
Yeah,
Bros.
Legendary and Warner. I think I'm not sure. Legendary might be British, but I don't know. But Warner Brothers does them. But yeah, I mean, there is a Fast and the Furious vibe. But what I'm saying, what I'm trying to say is that if it's been done before, where they get the good balance of human drama and spectacle and monster spectacle, it's been done before, where it's well balanced, where it's solid, where it's cohesive. That's the key word, where it's cohesive.
I
This
feel
one
like
was not cohesive. I felt like I was watching two separate movies, and one movie was about a bunch of people talking about what the fuck was going on. And you know what I'm saying? And they were just interspliced. So that was my take. But if there was a way to just watch the monster fights, I would watch that, and I would watch it over and over. It's just that human element is just kills me, man. It makes me want to like fast forward it. Like it was so bad,
right,
from Kong versus Godzilla. But again, you get what the title says.
right.
You got all that stuff. It was just, I think it was off balance. I think it was kind of disjointed. You know what I mean? I
I
wanted something a little bit smoother.
No, yeah, but kind of like you said, like I knew what I was getting, and that's what I got, and I was happy with it. Because again,
Yeah,
I've been loving these monster movies. I've been loving that they've, even
yeah.
on Twitter, people are like, "This is supposed to be the last one out of these movies. This is supposed to be the last
Mhm.
of the MonsterVerse movies that they have branded," and people are asking for more after this
They
last one, which
should.
I'm all for it. You know me, hey,
Yeah,
give me freaking Space Godzilla. Give me give me all these other ones. I
yeah.
don't care. Let's
Or what
do
was
it.
that guy that was like Ultraman but suit? It was like a guy,
Yeah,
and he was a
Ultraman.
normal. It was no, it wasn't Ultraman. Ultraman is his own thing, but it was. Hold on. Shay's gonna chime in. What is it? Jet Jaguar. His name's Jet Jaguar,
Jet
and he's in
Jaguar.
the yeah. Look him up. He's in the Godzilla because, dude, I have since from being a kid to now, I used to have the box sets of this. I
Hmm.
used to watch them all the time. Like Godzilla is like a staple in my family. It's like the Rocky movies on Die Hard on Christmas, um, and everyone in my family. I have like crazy collectibles. I have the original Godzilla from 1980 that came out when the movie Godzilla 1985 came out.
Hmm.
Which, if you haven't seen it, bro, watch it. It's one of the best ones. Um, that's why I am a huge Godzilla fan. And like when I was a kid, not anymore, but when I was a kid. Now I watch these and I'm like, they're dope. The design is awesome. The creature design is great. It shits all over what the Matthew Broderick one. That one was a piece of
I still have a hot spot, a soft spot for that movie. Either way,
a hot spot.
a, hot spot,
Hot spot
a
for that
soft
movie.
spot for that movie.
Oh man,
Like,
any Godzilla
wait,
gets you
he
going.
reproduces asexually? Where's the fun in
Uh,
that?
oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah, that was Leslie Mann. Um,
And then Gene Reno, you're like, why are you guys chewing gum? All Americans chew gum.
Hank Azaria's in that too, huh?
Is he? Oh, he's the
Yeah,
cameraman.
Hank
You're right.
Azaria's the cameraman. Yeah,
That's
yeah,
crazy. I totally didn't put
yeah,
that
man.
together.
But anywho, Jet Jaguar. Jet Jaguar, he's like an Ultraman guy, and then he does this thing with his hands like Ultraman would, and he would get Godzilla sized. So there's movies out there where Godzilla's fighting. It wasn't Mecha Godzilla. He looks like Godzilla except he has metal hooks on his hands, and then he has like a lens for an eye. He's like half bug, half lizard type of guy, and he has like a beak, like a beak that points down. So it's a cool creature, and they're fighting that guy, and so it's a human that builds up to the size of a fucking kaiju and teams up with the kaiju's and it's just fucking up monsters.
Hey, this some.
Um,
This sounds like some freaking Hanna Barbera shit. Tito, Rob.
no, I'm telling you, it was great. It's super cheesy, but it's fucking great.
Mhm.
And I don't even know why I brought him up. But Jet Jaguar, look him up. He's great.
But yeah, hopefully we'll get more. Maybe they'll perfect it. I'm not holding out my hope for that. But as long as we get good fight scenes, I'm all for it.
It needs a little. It needs a. That's all. That's all I'm saying. The it just needed more cohesiveness. That's all I thought. I sent you a picture of Jet Jaguar shaking hands with Godzilla.
Let me check it out. Oh my god, I've seen
Yeah.
this picture before. You're right. I thought that was Ultraman.
Yeah. No. He's a different character, but yeah,
Okay.
he's like they're buddies now. They're shaking hands.
No, yeah. You know what? Like I told you, like I love Godzilla as a kid too. Used to watch the
Yeah,
animated series. Used to watch a lot of these Godzilla things. And
yeah,
my mom, she would go to the library and pick me up a new Godzilla movie every time. Anytime they had any of the
yeah.
old ones, she would bring them home, and I just watched them on repeat
Man,
all the time because I was
I
just
have
so
the
in love with
box set at my
those
dad's
monster
house.
movies.
We have the box set at my dad's house of like all the OG Godzilla movies. Like first one, the Japanese one, the American one, all the way over to Godzilla in 1985. So it's like a what is it, like a 15 movie box set or
Yeah,
16 movie
I don't think I've
box set?
seen all of them, but I've seen at least
It's
a
like
good
10.
majority of them.
Yeah,
I always thought that
it's a
was weird,
lot.
that one where the aliens were like cockroaches.
I think that's Godzilla 2000.
Yeah. That's the one.
That one was made in response of Godzilla 1988, and even that, I mean, I'm sorry, Godzilla 1998. Even that one's not bad though. That was
Um,
a really good.
have you seen the new one, Shin Godzilla, the one that they made in Japan a couple years ago?
No, I haven't. I
That was
haven't. I
really
heard
good. A
it was
lot of
good.
people. That was a response to the 2014 Godzilla.
Really?
Yeah, you should watch it
Okay,
if you can.
I
It's
gotta
really
check that
good.
out.
I don't mind watching it with you.
Maybe that's yeah. Let's do it. Maybe that's my beef. Maybe I just like Japanese. Maybe I don't like Americanized Godzilla.
Yeah,
I don't know.
because an American film, you're playing it for the action. Japanese, they don't treat it that same way.
Yeah, yeah. There's a little bit more substance in it, even if it's fucking horribly cheesy, you know. But all right, I shot the captain on Godzilla.
Okay.
I shot my wad
One
over here
one
on
last
Godzilla.
thing though, for me, I think the out of American cinema, the last monster-ish movie that I thought was well done in every aspect except for the action was Shape of Water.
Shape. Are we talking giant monster? Or are we talking
No,
tiny
like
monster?
I guess just monster, like smaller scale monster, like Hellboy or Shape of Water. I thought
You
Shape
know
of
what's
Water
a
was a highly acted, really engrossing. Just a well done script and about this fish man and this lady in the
yeah
19. No, I don't know. Sorry, I always get my eras mixed up, but almost like a 1940s,
yeah
1950s
yeah.
government conspiracy.
You know I haven't seen it yet, and I've been wanting to watch.
Oh, dude, you gotta watch it. Again, it's not at the same level as like a Godzilla. It's more. I would
Sure.
want to say it's more of a Dracula type of film. You know what I'm saying? Like it's that
Like a monster movie. Yeah,
a
like a
monster personalized movie, where it really speaks to the
creature of the
human
Black
element.
Lagoon type of thing.
Exactly, dude. I
Yeah.
think
No.
you would love that movie, and it has everything you're looking for. You're an amazing freaking cast, an amazing script, so much
Yeah.
tension and so much buildup, but almost no action because again, it's not that type of movie.
Actually, the lady that gets stomped out by King
Yep, she's the
Ghidorah,
same one. Yep.
she's the main lady. And you know another thing too, I want to mention while we're Peter Jackson, while we're on Guillermo del Toro, um, he has a movie from the '90s. One of his when you said one of the best movies in American cinema of like monster movies, he has a movie from the '90s called Mimic. It's a corny horror movie, but it's one of Guillermo del Toro's first movies, and you can see all the seeds being planted that ended up becoming Hellboy and Pacific Rim and
Oh yeah.
Crimson Peak and all the movies that he ended up doing. That Pan's Labyrinth was fucking amazing. In my opinion, that's his magnum opus, you know.
Oh yeah.
But I haven't seen Shape of Water, so I gotta check that out. But watch Mimic whenever you get the chance.
Okay.
It's it's these roaches that were genetically engineered or something like that. I haven't seen the movie, and it's a 25-year-old movie, so bear with me if I'm wrong. These roaches grow up like as a survival mechanism. They grow up to be 6 feet tall, and they mimic their prey. And their mandibles fold over their faces, and their wings come over them like a trench coat, and they look like people walking around in alleys. And then they attack and kill and eat people. And thousands of them, or hundreds of them, or whatever, start using like the sewers of New York, I think, as like a it might be New York. I'm getting the details all jacked up, but they start using the sewers essentially as a nest, as a hive, and they start spilling over into the streets and shit. That's a really cool movie, and it's a really like well done monster movie for the time. The CG is dated, the effects are dated, but they did really well. They kept it dark. They kept it like where you couldn't see it directly. You know, it's done really well,
Right.
and
Like it gives
it's a
you
good
enough to be for you to be curious.
yeah, yeah, enough to be scared. You know, when you
Right.
watch
Right.
it when I was a kid, it
Kind
horrified me.
of. Another movie I like that I know it's controversial because a lot of people don't like this franchise,
Which
but I
one?
like the movie with the shaky cam monster you could barely see
Cloverfield.
The Cloverfield
Oh, dude,
franchise. I thought that was well
Cloverfield.
done too.
The second one is amazing with
Yeah,
John Goodman and what's her name? Ramona Flowers, Mary Winstead.
yeah,
I want to say.
Winston.
Okay. Yeah. Have you seen that one? Ten
Yeah, I've seen.
Cloverfield Lane.
Yeah, I have seen it, but again,
Oh
my main
man,
problem with that one is that there's no monster.
but there was.
Like,
It
I
was
know we know it was John Goodman, but
no, but
but it was missing that first element because it's James Gunn, right? He's the one who made Cloverfield.
no. J.J. Abrams.
JJ, he wanted to have that type of like Godzilla type of movie. That's what he set out to do with
Yeah.
Cloverfield. But again, it never got the legs for it either to get to
Right, right.
that
Super
level.
8. Remember Super 8 that he made?
Yeah, yeah.
Super
No,
8
that was
was a
Steven
good monster
Spielberg that
movie.
he did that.
Steven Spielberg produced it, but J.J. Abrams directed.
Oh, really? Okay, that kind of feels
Yeah,
like
yeah.
more of the
It
movie that
has
he
a
wanted to make.
there's a train crash sequence in that movie that's freaking like it's like awe-inspiring. It's like, oh shit, like that's blowing up, but it's pretty cool.
No, yeah, that was great.
All
Okay.
right, take people out of Godzilla movie, make them. That's where I'm coming from.
Okay,
Make it
so
work. Or get them the fuck out of there.
Rob is on the people hate train with his shoot the captain. Now, let's go
The
to.
people hate trade.
Okay, so for my shoot the captain segment of this week is Rob. They're doing it. They're doing
Oh
what I
God,
told you about Star Wars was going to be happening. Where in
what are
about
they
10 to 15 years, everyone will remember the sequel trilogy with fond memories and not remember any of the bad stuff. You know why?
Of
Because
course.
in the comic books, in the book series, everything that current Star Wars fans and new fans are coming into this fold, right? They're
Mhm.
getting the fill in the blanks of everything that didn't make sense in the previous movies. And because
Oh,
trust me, I'm in the genre. I came into Star Wars during the prequel times, just like a lot of us in our generation, right? I'm gonna
I
imagine.
didn't. I came into Star Wars because of my uncle and my family members. We had the old VHSs in the 80s.
Mhm.
So for me, I was already Star Wars was old by the
Right.
time the prequels came out.
Well,
I was already familiar with
no,
the
I,
original
I understand
trilogy.
that. I know some people got introduced to the original, but most people for our age group didn't get
Yeah,
introduced until the prequels. That's what the prequels is about. It's
yeah,
about
yeah,
getting people into the fandom, and then from there you can start, watching the original trilogy and then everything else in between. Because at the end of the day, this is what the whole point is: not only to make a fun, fantasy sci-fi genre, but also to sell books, sell video games, sell comic books, sell all these products. Because at the end of the day, that's what they have to do, right? That's what is the brand. It's so strong. The Star Wars brand has always been strong. It's a multi-generational brand. You have people
yeah,
who are
yeah,
in
yeah,
their 70s, 80s still loving Star Wars. People who are our age who are now showing it to their kids, and those
yeah,
kids are going to grow up with that same fond remembrance because it's a family franchise, almost like King Kong or Godzilla. It might be something like that where it may last generations from now, right?
yeah.
Now, but again, the prequels when they came out, and even now, I will defend the prequels that they did what they could with what they had, right? And of course, there's going to be some choices that were made that doesn't come across or doesn't make sense, right? But
Uh-huh.
then you slowly start filling out those holes and slowly start putting in new ideas or putting a different lens on the same idea. Now, one thing that I would want, like my biggest criticism of the prequel movies was that did at any time during those movies did you feel like the Jedi were the bad people?
Yeah, a couple
See,
times.
I don't think most people got that because it's not
Yeah.
shown well at all in those movies.
They weren't the bad people, but there was definite corruption and
Exactly, there
arrogance.
was dogmatism happening
Yeah,
in the
yeah,
prequels, but things like that, all that, all the extra information, that didn't come out until way later. That came out with the Clone Wars. That came out with video games. That came out with comic books. That started filling in those blanks. That tell you, you know what, maybe the movie missed on this point, but let's explain. Let's show us. Let me show you how the corruption happened in the prequels and what
right.
and why the Jedi became a military force instead of peacekeepers, right?
Instead of monks.
Exactly, and
Yeah.
again, I don't feel like the prequels did a good job of showing that, especially to an everyday audience. But
I
it's
think
something that a Star
maybe
Wars
because
fan
I
would.
watch a lot of movies, maybe I got it from that because I'm not too well versed in Clone Wars or any of the expanded universe or the legend stuff. I just know I just watch the movies and the Mandalorian, you
Mhm.
know, and the Ewok movie, the cute little Ewok movie. That's all I've watched when it comes to Star Wars. But the I got that they were being arrogant and that's what their downfall. But I'm starting to think, what if they left a bunch of plot holes in the sequel trilogy on purpose to go back and bank on all the expanded shit?
It. I'll tell you right now, I don't think it. I don't think anything is ever done on purpose because that's always the worst excuse for any type of franchise or any type of media, is that they
Mm-hmm.
did these things on purpose to be this bad. No, no one ever sets out to do a bad movie or to leave these holes to be explained later. No one ever does that. You know, what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
maybe.
At least not intentional because it makes no financial sense.
Somehow Palpatine is back.
Exactly. But
You know
guess
what I
what?
mean?
But guess
Like,
what? Now they're gonna fill in that hole, and then in 20, 15 years, it's not gonna make it's sorry, it's not gonna be so jarring because we're not that age demographic anymore, or at least we're not being
right.
targeted in that way. The newer generations are gonna be targeted in a way that we were. Where when the prequels came out, it was shedding on it like completely. There was this revisionist history where people think that the prequels were held in high regards. They were never held in high regards, but
No.
the people who grew up on the prequels hold it to high regard now because that's what they grew up on.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I'm telling you right now, it's already happening with the sequels. I've been reading a couple books in the, you know me, I'm a big Star Wars fan. I play the video games. I read the comic books. I read Charles Soule's Rise of Kylo Ren. I've been reading a lot of his Star Wars comics and a lot of the Star Wars media that's been coming out, especially Paul Dameron's comic. There's a great Lando run that happened a couple of years ago. Right now, they're doing the initiative called the High Republic, where it's a book initiative of this 200 years before any of these movies. We had that time coming from one line that Obi-Wan said in the original trilogy, that the Jedi were peacekeepers for thousands of years. So then they're giving us that. They're giving us this is how it was back then before any of this had happened, right? Before the Skywalker saga, as they called it. And they're starting to
started
fill
calling
out
it
a
at the
lot
very
of.
end.
I'm sorry.
As they started calling it at the very end, I
At
didn't
the
know
very end, exactly. It was never called that ever
until fucking the last movie.
until
came
the
out.
last one, because
It's like, oh, so
because
that's
you
what
were
I've
trying
been
to hype
watching
it
this
up.
whole time. Yeah.
You were trying to hype it up, and actually, I was going to tell you, I bought a book called Skywalker: A Family at War. It is a brand new book that came out. Anyways,
Oh, cool.
okay, so I've been reading Light of the Jedi, and again, this is an era before any of that stuff. Guess what happens in this movie? I mean, this book.
What
There
happened?
is an incident in this book that the Jedi have to solve. It's a crazy incident. It's built greatly throughout the 18 chapters of this one incident that happens in this book. It's
cool.
great though. It's built up perfectly. Charles Soule does a great job of creating the scenario. There is a hyperspace accident that happens in the hyperlane, right? And as this ship blows up, pieces of this ship are coming out of hyperspace and landing and bombarding on planets, killing millions, killing tons of people everywhere in different parts of the systems, right?
Oh shit.
But what does that remind you of? Doesn't that remind you of what happened in the Last Jedi when Captain Holdo crashed into Supreme Snoke's flagship and destroyed all the other, all the other cruisers behind it, right?
Yeah.
So okay, people complain on Last Jedi that this had never happened in Star Wars before, and that this is unrealistic. Unrealistic for a sci-fi fantasy movie, right?
Yeah, that's stupid.
Which is dumb as hell. But but guess what?
And not only that, like if you can point two cars and have them redline it and have them crash into each other, it's stupid that people got angry or people got up in arms about a ship being put into hyperspace, and when it runs into another ship, it explodes and it kills it.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's dumb that people got mad at that, because even in the first one, Han Solo is telling, you don't understand the equations, the navigational equations I got to do here, because you don't want to fly into a black hole or fly right through a star.
Yeah, this isn't done on purpose for a reason.
Yeah. Yeah.
But either way, the point is, people were up in arms about that during that time, right? And but guess what? Charles Soule, he saw something in the movie that didn't seem realistic, and guess what? He used that to his advantage to tell his story, and he's giving precedence to what happened in the movies. Nice. So when it didn't exist before, and the same thing with Palpatine. Palpatine's whole power, his whole dark side, his whole being didn't have precedence in the original trilogy. All that came later. It didn't happen in the movies. You hardly know anything about Palpatine in those movies. If you watch the original trilogy, you know he's Darth Vader's boss and he's bad. That's all you know.
He's just an archetype.
Exactly. But you don't know how far back his plans were, how he had foreseen, like all the stuff that makes Palpatine cool now.
He's a boogeyman.
Exactly. Was filled in afterwards, so way afterwards, with movies and books and everything like that. And I'm telling you, with Light of the Jedi, I saw that resemblance. I bought this new book called Skywalker, a Family at War, which is a book that literally tells you we're out to set out to bridge all these trilogies together. We're going to tell a cohesive story, and it's almost like a summary type of book, right? It gives you Anakin's story, Qui-Gon, what he means to Anakin, things like that. It's kind of like a summary type of book, but it ties all these themes and family values that are shown throughout the movies, right? Where even like I was looking at the contents, the chapters. It starts with the original. It starts with the prequels, goes through the original trilogy, and then with the sequels. And even the first chapter of the sequel is called "Son of Solo, Daughter of Darkness." You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
And that obviously relates to Kylo and Rey. And because why? Because they're starting to not replant the seeds, but start to sow those seeds to stuff that didn't make sense in the sequel, or things that people got mad about in the
Yeah.
sequels. And how does this relate or tie into Star Wars? Because eventually it will. Because Disney didn't put that this much money into it if it wasn't for, they're gonna nurture this franchise and fill in the blanks, and that's what Star Wars fans often want. And this, it's almost like Marvel, right? Marvel gets a lot of their. Sorry if I sound like I'm rambling. I'm trying to get to a point.
No,
Marvel
no,
fills in a lot of their
I'm still here.
storylines and movies and TV shows from things that had come before, right? But they tweak it in a way that it's available for a mass audience. Star Wars doesn't have that luxury of being able to build on something that had came before, especially for the sequels. They threw out the expanded universe completely. Not all the ideas, but they threw out a bunch of the expanded universe and started from scratch. And now they're starting to rebuild on those connective tissues. If you read the comic book series about Poe Dameron, it's such a great series about how he came into the fight of being a rebel, right? How his family have been there since Yavin 4. How he was born pretty much being destined to be a pilot and be a rebellious leader, right?
Yeah.
And again, but these are things that are done in the margins. These are things that most Star Wars fans are not going to read or even know about. But then
Mhm.
but then once it comes out in a movie or in a show later on, it's time. It's getting those brilliant ideas that have been done before of other people who laid that groundwork.
Right, right. So they're kind of consolidating the ideas,
Exactly, and again, like, and I feel
like bringing
that's
them
kind
all
of what Star Wars
together, the best
had
of the
done
best.
before too with the prequels. Again,
Yeah.
I'm just my shoot the captain is that Star Wars knows what they're doing. Even if people get mad now,
Hmm.
this won't matter in a couple of years. People are gonna remember all this so fondly because of
Yeah.
everything else great that will eventually tie it all together.
And if you think about what we don't in those movies, the things that we don't like in those things that options of what the original universe used to be, right?
Right.
So when people get angry about this or that, there were things we're not going to get into the movie because that's going to be a whole podcast in and of itself. In and of itself,
Hmm.
um, but there was some lazy writing, some corners being cut, things
Yeah.
that they didn't know what they were doing until they were doing
Or
it.
again,
As
based on the rumors, based on the Carrie Fisher's untimely passing, things had a
yeah,
pivot, and it wasn't
hmm,
clean, and they did the best that they could. At the end of the day, no one, at least when it comes to a franchise this big, no one comes into Star Wars making it with a Transformer script. Everyone's trying to do their best at what they had and what they
right,
could. But and
yeah,
again, I don't hold it against it. Even though Rise of Skywalker wasn't my favorite film, there's lots of parts about that movie that I did enjoy. I thought, again, Kylo and Ray hold that movie. That entire dynamic between
that's
those two
true.
characters is great.
I want to see. I just want to see. For me personally, I think that Finn and John Boyega. I didn't like her character, but you put her in there. You
Hmm.
know what I mean? You gotta do justice by the character. But there was a
And
bunch
John
of
Boyega got
characters that
a terrible deal. His character went
yeah,
nowhere. If anything, he
yeah,
redid the same character development he did in Last Jedi. In the third
yeah,
one, he literally went
yeah.
through that same process again. And like I told
Same.
you, but again, it's the outside media, Rob. It's the outside media that fans of the series are gonna read and watch, but people who are super not everyone's a fan of something, right? And some
Yeah,
fans will be more superficial. Like, I only watch the movies. That's great. That means you're a fan of Star
yeah,
Wars. I watch the
yeah.
movies, the books, and the video games. Doesn't make you a better fan. Doesn't make you. It just makes you that one nerdy guy like just knows the
Yeah.
technical side of
Listen,
things. But at the
I'm
end of the
I'm
day,
a
we all enjoy that media.
I'm a fan of the Star Wars movies. Some of the comic books, like the ones that I came across as a kid,
Hmm.
and the Disney Plus show. You
Right.
know what I mean?
And
Everything
you know
else,
me, I'm a
it just I'm
fan.
not really.
Sorry,
Yeah.
what?
Everything else, I'm not really like compelled. You know what I mean? To
Yeah, because
dig deep.
it
My
takes a lot of
opinion.
money. It takes a lot of time because Star Wars itself is a money making machine. They make so much money on everything that they do: comic books,
But my
merchandising,
opinion is
books,
when you make
films.
something, it's got to be good as a standalone thing,
Hmm.
even if it is part of a bigger project. Even if you are getting just a chapter, you look at while we're on the subject, you look at A New Hope. If you watch A New Hope from beginning to end, it stands alone as its own story. It has a beginning, a middle, and an end. And if that's the only movie you ever saw that Star Wars on it, it would be satisfying. You
Then,
know,
based on that criteria, 5
Mhm.
out of the 9 films would not stand alone on their own.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah, but
That's exactly
because
what
they're
those.
not meant to be.
But it's that's not good storytelling. You know what I mean? Stories have to have a beginning, a middle, and end. There's a point. There's a
Well,
theme.
there's the same point that people
And
make
if
about
you're, and
Endgame
if,
and also Infinity War, that they're not good
mhm.
standalone movies. But that's because you're ignoring the 20 films that came before it to set that up. Same thing,
But the thing
Tito.
is, I don't agree with that. If you have a vague idea of who the characters are, right, and you are watching it, and the first movie I know a lot of people,
You need
first
outside
Avengers
knowledge
movie,
though. You need outside knowledge.
not
None of
necessarily.
You don't get any of those
If
character development plot points in those movies if it
To
wasn't for the
fully
movies before.
appreciate it, yes. To fully appreciate it, yes. But Endgame is a
Are you
story
telling me
about
that
like,
if someone didn't watch Captain
huh?
America at all and
Yeah.
saw it on your left, that would mean something to them, or that made
No,
sense for the
no,
plot?
no. You're not letting me say it. What I'm saying is those things, they're not part. Falcon saying on your left doesn't do shit for the plot.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? That's just a callback to something to satisfy fans, right?
Right.
But what you're watching is a story. Like those two movies, they're a two-parter. It's a one and a two, right? If you watch the one, it's a group of established heroes who lose really badly, who lose horrendously. That's one story. You know what I mean? You watch the next one, you're watching a group of beaten down, downtrodden uh, heroes who find a way against all odds, and they come back to save the people they couldn't save. You know, you can watch Endgame because I went to the movies with someone who didn't watch Infinity War, who loved Endgame.
Hmm.
All that they lost, and it covered it right from the get. You know what I mean? They didn't. I didn't need to explain anything to that person.
Hmm.
They watched it and they were like, "This movie's fucking dope," you know. And I was like, "Yeah, you got to see the last one." Died, and then I got that. I was like, didn't have to explain shit. The little Easter eggs and the little nods to the audience and the winks and the little things like that. That it makes it better for people who have followed it. But standalone, they still work. You watch Winter Soldier by itself, it still works by itself. You know what I mean? When something needs something else to work, I feel like, yeah, part twos and part threes and blah 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 blah. Sure, but even if you watch The Godfather Part Two, you don't need The Godfather Part One. It helps, but you don't. It's not a prerequisite. You get what I'm saying?
Hmm.
You're not
But
going to enjoy it.
but but again, you bring up that point though
Mm-hmm.
that it should be able to stand alone. If
Yeah,
Mandalorian wasn't associated with the Star Wars universe, would it be able to stand alone? Yeah, it would be.
yeah,
Because at the end of the day, it's just a cowboy shogun movie, right?
yeah.
And
And Cowboy
but
West.
it also builds
Yeah,
on pre-established lore in the Star Wars universe. There are Mandalorian
exactly, exactly.
people who have been in Star Wars know how cool Mandalorians are. We've always known that. It's
Yeah,
not
yeah,
something
yeah.
that's hidden. You know, like we've
Nope,
always known
never been
bounty
on.
hunters are cool and things like
Yeah,
that. Just that we finally got a show about it. But I'm saying,
yeah,
I guess like my main thing is that the prequels were never looked at lightly or were never looked at high regard, right? And
no,
then
no.
within there was a shift or enough time had passed where now they are, and that's going to happen with the sequels as well because new fans are going to get into this franchise. They're going to read again they're going to read the margins, right, about what gets filled in, and they're going to say that to their friends, and they're like, oh yeah, this is great because in this blah 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 blah, right, this means that, and because that's kind of the fun of Star Wars as well, is that people love those things about Star Wars, especially people who want to get that deep into it. If you again, if you want to get deeper into Lord of the Rings, you definitely can.
Yeah,
There is material out there for you to do that. If you want to get into deep with Star Wars, you can definitely do that as well. Do the movies stand up on their own? Let's say if you were just a movie watcher and you just watch the movies, do they all stand up on their own tremendously? Some better than
mhm.
others, right? But at the end of
Yeah,
the day, it's always a good time, at least for the most part.
exactly. If a cliffhanger doesn't mean that the story isn't done. A
Hmm.
cliffhanger is just there to tell you that there's something happening after, just like real life. You know what I mean? You pay your rent on the first month, and then guess what? On the second, cliffhanger is the rent's coming due again. You know what
Hmm.
I'm saying? So it's kind of like you do a thing, then there's a little cliffhanger saying, "Hey, there's more to this," and then and that brings you back to the story.
Right.
But if you look at any movie with a cliffhanger, there is a point of punctuation. You know, if you watch let's talk. We're on Star Wars. Let's talk Empire Strikes Back. That had a cliffhanger. That had a cliffhanger ending. That was
Mm-hmm.
one of the original cliffhanger endings in big budget movies, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or even like Halo 2. Remember Halo 2?
Are you gonna
That
bring
was
up
a
Halo?
because it was done before the climax.
Mm-hmm.
Return of the Jedi had a climax. They had its part of the hero's journey. It had the failure, where the hero lost.
I
You
hate
know,
I hate Return of the Jedi. After watching it again, I was like, man, this movie's so stupid.
Return of the Jedi.
I hate it. Canonically, I love Return of the Jedi, right? I love the
Yeah,
story. I just think it's so weirdly shot compared to the other two. And there's so many weird choices that they made
yeah.
with that movie.
The Ewoks were bizarre.
Han Solo's whole
The
character felt like a completely different person. He was so
He
goofy
seemed
in
like he
that
was
in that third
toning
one,
down. He seemed like he was toning down, and
right?
and you see, I don't know. I don't remember too much. I don't have it in the forefront of my mind right
Trust
now.
me, like,
But
cause remember I told you that I had rewatched the entire trilogy before Rise of Skywalker came out. I'm like,
yeah,
love again. Like I told you, like, there's great movies in these sagas, right? I think
yeah,
Solo gets a bad rap. I thought Solo was actually a great
mhm.
movie, and I thought the
It
actor
was a
did
great
well
standalone.
as Aaron Eck. No, not Aaron Eckbar. Sorry,
I don't know his name.
Aaron Eckhart.
Aldrich,
Aldred.
Aldrich something.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he did it. I thought he did a great Han Solo character. I don't think he was doing Harrison Ford. He was doing a Han Solo, and I thought his Han Solo was great.
yeah,
At least in the way that it was portrayed later on in the film. Like once you got to see him as he develops that character, right? And that's what I'm
yeah.
part
And
of
it
that
and it
whole.
leaves room for character development.
And again, if they make a Solo 2 happen, if that ever does happen, I'm for it. I would
Mhm.
want to see a sequel to his character and to the storylines that they have set up in those movies. But anyway, that's getting from besides the point. At the end of the day,
Case in point, Rogue One is a good standalone.
oh
Where
yeah,
where where is a great standalone. And then but there's bookends to it where it's like, okay, there's something that came before, there's something that came after,
right,
you know
exactly. And it
and
doesn't
it's literally a trilogy before and a trilogy after, and it's a perfect glue. You know what I mean? And Mandalorian's
but
doing
it's
the same
safe
thing.
also
It is safe, but it's neat. It has a
because
neat
it doesn't
package.
have the same expectation as the sequel trilogy would have.
I guess so, but it outperformed it, in my opinion. It exceeded the expectations of the sequels.
Really, no,
Rogue
no.
One,
I
I
I
think, was
love Rogue
better
One,
than.
but I feel like again, it's a safe movie. It doesn't do anything new and doesn't add anything. It doesn't detract anything from the what it was already there. But if you didn't see it, it wouldn't add anything to it either.
It's inconsequential. Yeah, I hear you.
Exactly.
I hear you.
But the
Like,
sequels have the different. They don't have that luxury. They're making new. They're charting new progress in uncharted waters, right? They're trying to see
right,
what
right.
works and what doesn't. And again, like I mentioned, sequels has its issues, but at the end of the day, I think it's a fun movie, and it's an okay trilogy. I don't think it's the best trilogy ever made, but
No,
we
it's the
got some good
weakest
characters
trilogy
out of
ever.
it. Poe is great. John Boyega's character, Finn is great. I
Mhm,
thought a lot of the characters that they did introduce in the sequel trilogy was really good. But again, I don't want to get into
mhm.
that. But I wanted to say that
Right, right.
based on what I'm reading now with the comics, the comic books, the books that are coming out, things like that, the support and starting to tie in those kind of like those bullshit threads that makes no sense, but they may
Hmm.
cherry pick them in for future films, or they even may pick them for the live action.
Right.
Again, it's gonna make that revisionist history again, where there's gonna be a time where like, oh, remember when Last Jedi was hated? Like, I don't remember that. When did that happen? You know, like some bullshit like
Yeah,
that.
yeah. It's just every generation is going to have a trilogy. And that's what we're going to get. Every
Right.
generation Star Wars trilogy, just like every generation has an action movie, and every generation. I mean, if you look at it, back in ancient Greece, they followed. Their MCU was the Greek gods. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So like
It's
like
built. The MCU is building on the mythos of a hero, right? And what
Mhm.
does that mean for us at this generation, or at
Yeah,
least in the 20th century?
this day and age. Yeah,
Exactly.
but
No, yeah,
but
and I think that's part of the fun of as a person who loves Star Wars. I my not my greatest fear, but like I would hate it if it just ended and nothing was ever done again. You know what I'm saying?
no, it's a sprawling like universe for stories. Like there's so many stories to be able to mine out of that.
Exactly, and that's the fun
But
of it. That's why I don't mind if like again like at least from what I see online, again, I try not to join a lot of online discourse because I like talking to
Mhm.
you about Star Wars. But at the end of the
Yeah,
day,
yeah,
I still have fun. You have fun. We
yeah.
get video games. I'm enjoying the books I'm reading because it's set
If
in
a
that
movie comes
universe.
out, I'm watching it. You know what I mean?
Right,
If something
exactly.
if something comes out on Disney Plus, I'm watching.
Like, hey, like,
So
did you like the Mandalorian? Guess who made? Guess who was a big part of that? Dave Filoni. What
yeah,
did he make? He made
yeah.
Clone Wars and also Star Wars Rebels. Guess what? two amazing shows too. You know, well,
Yeah.
half of Clone Wars is amazing.
What's wrong with the other half?
And no, it's just that there was a lot of setup. They didn't know if they're going to be a kids show or if they're going to go lean harder into the mythos of the actual Star Wars prequels.
Right.
Because again, half of the season feels like a Saturday morning cartoon. Here's the bad guy, here's the resolution, and then the next episode is something else. You know, until they once they figured out what Clone Wars was going to be. Again, introducing new characters like Ahsoka, which now people are super curious. And Mandalorian also helped that. Like, people are in love with Ahsoka, and like, who is she, right? Watch the Clone Wars. You're gonna see why we've been in love with this character for so many years. If you've been a Star Wars fan, you know, or at least a fan of that level.
I love what they. Pretty dope,
right? And again, all comes from the mind.
And I've never seen a single episode of Clone Wars, and I thought that the way they handled her as a new character, especially with the Jedi with a bunch of backstory, it was pretty. It was cool. Like, I want to see her individual show.
Yeah, and I think the problem with Star Wars is that the corporate head gets in the way, because at the end of the day, Star Wars is a product, right? At the end of the day, you have to make money on this. Yeah. And Dave Filoni had been making this for a long time. And guess what? He's getting to helm a lot of stuff now because of his past success. That he didn't get it right away. He grew it over time in an animated series, and now he's getting even bigger directing roles to be able to do it in the live action set, which is great.
The common denominator for him though, for his entire body, has been the passion he has for the material.
Right.
You know?
Which again,
so
which I always find weird when people say that, like, at least for like Rian Johnson, for example, right? They say that, oh, he hates Star Wars. He has, like, after watching that movie, I've only seen that he has so much passion for Star Wars because a lot of the choices he made in that movie he wouldn't have done it if he wasn't deep into the Star Wars lore. Right. And that was his vision, you know? And again, and then you're having authors like Charles Soule and E.K. Roberts, another great person who writes a lot of these materials for Star Wars universe and lore building. Again, if you give the material to the right person, they can do great stuff with it, which may down the line may become a movie, may become a TV series, and then you already have established that people love, and then gets translated to the screen.
And making it to the TV series or the movies,
because even right, exactly, even Ahsoka's show that already got announced, they already released an unofficial synopsis of it, that she's trying to find Grand Admiral Thrawn. Where does Grand Admiral Thrawn come from? He comes from the books and Star Wars Rebels, and she's also trying to find Ezra Bridger. Who the fuck is Ezra Bridger? Guess what? That is the brainchild of Dave Filoni from Star Wars Rebels. It's these things that tie into and make this whole universe so connective together. Even when it doesn't connect seamlessly, someone will come along. You know what? Let me show you a cool spin on this idea that will
flesh it out.
That will flesh it out more.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's going to happen in a couple of years. And then I'll be excited to see what. I always get excited when you give these properties to people who grew up on it, and then see that pass on to another generation and see what they make for it. You know, it's always fun because they always think, you know, it's always fun to see what someone else who doesn't have your same lens creates out of it.
Right, how they interpreted the story.
Exactly.
I was just talking about this with my brother when we were watching Falcon and the Winter Soldier last. There's no spoilers, but there's this kind of like moment where it's like, oh shit, we're watching a show where Zemo, Falcon, and the Winter Soldier team up with U.S. Agent. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like that would have never 15 years ago. That would have never, like, on no planet would that movie have been made or that show have been made.
20 years ago, the idea of an Iron Man movie was laughable.
Yeah, straight up laughable.
Mm-hmm. He was considered a B to C tier Marvel hero.
Yeah, and then he became number one.
I know, like,
you know, and it's like.
But again, it's because if you give it to the right person and they show you a cool. The best part is when you see how someone else sees it, right? Like, right. Oh, this is a piece of shit, fucking like art piece. Like, no, look, no, you're seeing it the wrong way. Like, let me show how I see it, and then you're like, oh shit, I do see where you see it. And you appreciate it a little bit more. It's kind of the same lens. Jon Favreau, he loved the idea of making this Iron Man movie, and I don't think at the time they knew they were gonna make this huge sprawling. Actually, no, I was wrong. No, I did watch the documentary. No, they did. They kind of knew at the time what they wanted to do, but they didn't think at the time they didn't think it would be that big or the way that it
They
came
thought
now.
they were gonna make 5 movies. They thought they
Exactly.
were gonna make 5 movies and it was gonna be done. And then they ended up making like way more. I've lost count. And then now you add the
25
shows.
and the shows, yeah,
20. I think it's like 20. I think Black Widow's 23.
yeah. And then you gotta
Black
also
Widow.
consider Spider-Man movies who are set in the same universe, even though they're Sony.
That's true. That's true.
But either way,
Yes, I guess it is
I'm
25.
excited as a Star Wars fan to see everything that's coming up, both the live action shows. Hey, after reading this Skywalker's A Family at War book, maybe I'll have a different appreciation for the sequel movies too, and see how they connect all of it together, and see what other aspects you get from everything that had been shown. And already I kind of skipped ahead to see a little bit of the sequel stuff, right, for that book, and they talk about Ben Solo, how he grew up, what was his family dynamic like with Leia and Han being the two galactic heroes of the fucking Republic, right?
Yeah.
And
People
what
raising
and
him.
what kind of pressures that brought to him and things like that.
Mhm.
And it kind of makes sense why he went down the path that he went down. But again, it just gives you a new lens on something that's already great, because we all know at least out of the sequel trilogy, no one complained that Kylo Ren was a terrible character. I think he had the most interesting arc out of all the characters.
He did. It was a little flip floppy at the end. He did. I really thought the story was seeing
He
him
was an
fail.
antithesis of Anakin, a person who went from the light to the dark. He was a guy who went from the dark to the light.
That's true. That's
You know what
true.
I'm saying?
Yeah. I thought part of me
And they're
would
both
want to
dead.
see Star Wars if just the way Luke was approaching, where he's just a mad dog and we go down.
Mhm.
I want to. Part of me wants to see that, like what happens in
Yeah, what happened to him during those years? What made him lose
Yeah.
faith? What happened after Ben killed and killed all the Padawans and everything of the Jedi Temple? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Maybe that will add credence and make sense for his character flip in the Last Jedi, which again I don't fucking think is out of norm for a character in this universe. Yoda left for a cave in Dagobah after he lost once to Palpatine.
Yeah.
Oh, I fucking lost. I guess I'll go away for 50 years then.
forever and let the world go to shit.
Exactly. I'm like, aren't you a
Yeah.
fucking Jedi? Aren't you?
Yeah.
Isn't it your job to try to at least
Yeah.
help somewhat?
Yeah. No, that's why it's not. It's not. If you look at it that, I didn't have a story. If you look at what Luke's story, part of like again, Luke Skywalker's story is really adheres to the hero's journey, right? If you look at older examples of the heroes,
Yeah.
Bale
Hero
will,
falls from grace. Younger hero
there's
comes in,
always
shows them, a little bit of that spark that they used to have, and
Mhm.
guess what? They come back in full force again.
Mhm. I mean, it happened to Ben Affleck's Batman. It happened to Beowulf. It happened to Hercules. You know what I mean? Like all these stories where there's a huge fall from grace, or there's a huge failure, and they have to overcome failure after winning, consistently. And it even happens with like professional boxers and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
it's not.
Somebody's the champ, and then they lose, and then when they win again, become champ again, you love them even more. It's a lot of reasons why people don't like guys who constantly win all the time. You want to see someone fail and come back, because that's uplifting to see somebody come up from.
And not you know me, I always try to be sympathetic to anyone's point of view. Like I get the point of view of people saying that they didn't see their Luke Skywalker, but I'm like, this isn't that Luke Skywalker. This is a person who's already had years under his belt and things that had happened already. But guess what? They also got to see their Luke Skywalker in the Mandalorian season 2.
There you go.
And you know what I'm saying? Like you're getting those threads, and again, like I mentioned once we finish watching that show, that version of Luke doesn't take away anything from any of these storytellings at all. It adds to it, if anything.
No. Yeah. I like that it wasn't the tossing of the lightsaber when he could understand where people.
Yeah,
Hey,
I agree on that one. That one was so like
Anakin's.
such a drama queen moment. It's one of those funny weird things about Star Wars where there's always these scenes that are always off kilter a little bit, because they could have done that better.
Yeah, well, when he chucks it, it's kind of like I could see where people would feel disrespected, because to them that lightsaber means something. You know what I mean? To them, they're like, "Oh shit, that's his," and that's the one that Obi-Wan gave up, the one he fought Vader with. Like I could understand that.
Yeah.
But the thing is like, where it's like you got to understand that the characters' motivations are different than you as the viewer. You know
Right.
what I mean?
Exactly.
Like that's a person. It's
But
supposed
even
it's a
then, sometimes
representation of
there's,
a person.
but there's nothing wrong calling out bad execution as well too. Remember that
Sure.
scene in Attack of the Clones when Anakin tells Padme what he fucking did to the Sand People?
Yeah,
Should have been a very tense, very like dark moment,
and it was
but
laughable.
it was laughable because it just wasn't.
Yeah,
Again, it wasn't. I understand what they were going for, and then if you read the
yeah,
again, you can read that as a subtext, but it's not shown to you, or at least it's not presented in a good way.
yeah. Maybe
I
that,
killed
and
them,
it's
the children too. And Padme, she just has this puzzled look of like, hey, your boyfriend just murdered a bunch of people. Aren't you
yeah,
a senator? Aren't you supposed to be fighting for the good? He just told you he murdered a bunch of people.
and you're just like,
And you're just
I'll still
super
fucking,
chill. Like if anything, you got more horny for him after he told you that.
yeah, yeah. It's like fucking psycho bitch. No, it's fucking
Like
great.
it's those weird things that are just so funny sometimes in Star Wars. But
Yeah,
that's kind of what we love about it. There's these imperfect moments that happen. Hey, she delivered birth to Leia and Luke, but for whatever reason, I guess she doesn't want to live anymore.
yeah, yeah. She lost her man, so she doesn't want to raise her kids. Oh God, yeah. You know, it's frustrating.
But again, that's what I'm saying. Like even the sequels will have its moments now, but it's also going to have
Mhm.
its moments later on once those
Sure,
generation of
sure.
fans grows up as well.
And not only that, there's going to be new. Now there's going to be news that's going to alienate the fans of the sequels.
Mm-hmm.
And then the fans of Ray, Finn, and Poe are not going to like. You
Oh
know what
yeah.
I mean? And then
Even
they're going to have their
did
problems.
you ever watch? I know I told you, but you never watched the Lego Star Wars Holiday Special that came out on Disney Plus?
No, I haven't watched it.
It was fun. Again, it was a fun little like after Rise of Skywalker show. I mean, it's not canon; it's just for fun. But in
Yeah,
that version, she's trying to teach Finn how to use the Force. Because guess what? He never got to tell her that in the. Well, he
oh,
never got to
God.
tell her that in the Rise of Skywalker movie, right?
Yeah.
That he was Force or whatever. We assumed, right? But it was never told
It was a
because,
movie of, hey, I got to tell you something.
and then we
I
never.
don't have time for you. I don't have time for you, stupid.
But then you make fun stuff like that where someone, hey, he never got to tell her. What if we put that in here? You know,
Right, right, right.
and
Or
just have fun
let's
with it.
let's make a my right now. I'm of that anything that's with the Marvel movies and Star Wars. It's like if there's a hole you got to fill, fucking Disney Plus that shit, and it'll
Yeah,
be a hit. Just Disney Plus everything. Same. And then
dude.
if it's
There's rumors
and
that
the
they're
monster
bringing
size,
back.
throw it on HBO Max.
There's rumors that they're gonna make a Jedi Fallen Order sequel. Obviously, that there's no way they're not gonna make a sequel.
The game.
But also that they're making a Knights of like the Old Republic type of game, but it's
Uh-huh.
gonna be based on this book series that they're doing right now with Del Rey books of the
Right,
High
right, right.
Republic, and a lot of people are guessing it might be called the Knights of the High Republic,
Okay.
and you're gonna
Okay.
have this series of these characters where again it's a time where there's Jedi everywhere, and then the way that
Yeah.
this current book initiative is set out is that they want to tell a story of this time of when the Jedi were like cowboys or they were like knights of the round table where they weren't all you know held to this order to this dogmatic religious
Or
thing.
Samurai.
They were kind of their own things. Like if you wanted to go out and explore, you could, and these are the adventures of these people, you know.
Right, right.
And
That's cool. I would like to see them get that on order cast and put them in live action too. Disney Plus is a perfect place for that.
that's
Too.
what the Acolyte is
They're
about.
all
The
they're
Acolyte
all
is going to
aged
tie
right.
into the High Republic era as well.
Oh, right, right, right.
But again, like being a Star Wars fan right now, we're getting 7 different live action films, 2 animated series. We're getting this entire book initiative set 200 years before. We're getting all these new video games, one being created by Ubisoft. We're getting a possible Knights of the High Republic game, and also a sequel to Jedi Fallen Order. Star Wars is
Do you think
popping,
they're
and I'm
gonna?
here.
Do you think they're
I'm here
gonna?
for it.
Do you think they're gonna throw in the Fallen Order cast into live action? They're
I
all the
would
right
love
age.
to see it, but I would love to see that continue as a game because I want to play it as a game.
Yeah.
You know?
No, of course. But what I mean is having the characters show up like in the
Oh yeah, I wouldn't mind.
having them show up because
That's the
they
hard
look,
part about
all the
these.
actors look like what they look like on screen. Or
Yeah,
on,
I would love if they did that. That'd be great. Because
yeah.
you never know what happens with these stories because now the problem, not the problem, but you have to find a way that makes sense. And you don't want to override what comes before, but that happens already in the Star Wars universe. Like this is how the president said anything that happens live action will always override anything before it.
Yeah.
So if there's a right now, I have a book called Ahsoka.
That takes priority.
Exactly. I have a book called Ahsoka about what had happened after Order 66 went down. That got overridden with what happened in the Clone Wars. Yeah, the final season that they made for Disney Plus.
Gotcha.
Because it goes this way: comics and books are are unfortunately the lowest tier. What takes precedence over that is the video games. What takes precedence over that is the animated shows, and what takes precedence over that is the live action stuff. So if one of them conflicts, you go with whatever is the highest order of.
There's a rank,
yeah. Because again,
I guess it goes with, the order in which they spend money. You know what I mean?
Right.
Get it? Whatever's the most expensive project, the more expensive the projects get, the more precedent they have.
And again, like that book doesn't get complete or overridden, at least the Ahsoka book, just that first 2 chapters of what exactly happened right as soon as she left. Only that part. The rest of it is still canon because she ended up going to a planet to lay low for a while, and then she was trying to figure out what to do after that.
Okay.
And then that goes into Star Wars, and then that storyline goes into Star Wars Rebels.
Okay. It could still work if you just kind of flub it a little bit. It works better than fucking Power.
And that's what I'm excited for. Like, are they gonna fill in that hole? Where is that hole where is that hole gonna be filled in? Are we gonna see because with everything that happened in Mandalorian season 2, that is kind of setting that up already.
You're right, but I just feel like they should just let that motherfucker die, dude. Just let the Empire. Just let him.
But again, even the game also for Battlefront 2. Again, small threads that tie into the Mandalorian. Again, give precedence to that happening in the future, and then maybe we'll get a live action show or even a video game that then fully ties it in.
Yeah.
You never know. Things like that will happen.
With time, you'll see it.
But anyways, that was my Shoot the Captain. Right now, I'm excited to see what happens with Star Wars. And then we're gonna be really excited what happens with Outriders later on. Sorry, I cut you off, Tito. What did you want to say?
Oh no! Right now, I got my sights set on. That's all I'm waiting.
Yeah, I'm just waiting for more games.
One thing at a time for me, because I get over books and this and that. It's like, nah.
No, and again, I don't expect every person to be that way because I'm a Lord of the Rings fan. Never read any of the books ever.
That's crazy.
Because I like the movies. The movies are my touchstone to that series. I enjoyed the hell out of the Hobbits. People are like, "Oh, none of this ever happens in the books." I'm like, I'm okay because this is just.
I don't give a fuck.
I don't give a fuck. These are great movies for me, or at least I'm getting what I want out of these movies. I don't even know any of the backstory to any of these people.
The second one was amazing. The second one was like on the second Hobbit movie.
Yeah,
was on the level. I think
Desolation of Smaug. Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, and I love the Shadow of Mordor and the War of Mordor games. Again, they don't tie in with that source material, but they're still fun. They're still set in that world, and that's what I like. It's just being in that world that brings joy to me, right? And I guess for Star Wars, that's why I'm all in on Star Wars. Is like, give me the comic book series, give me the books, give me the video games, give me the audio, whatever you want to make. I'm gonna consume it because I want more of this world. But I understand, like you said, I understand that as well. Not everyone's gonna devote that much time because it's a lot of time and money to do something like that as well.
It for me it's more of a thing where when I watch something I want to be immersed in it. If there's things that pull me out of it,
like Bernie in Godzilla.
Oh yeah, it's like what is this guy? You know what I mean? What is this guy doing? Is he some kind of creep? No, but there's I want to have cohesive. I want to spend my time with cohesive stories that that aren't insulting to the audience. When there's something that to me is insulting to the audience or is trying to have such a broad appeal that it loses itself.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's hard for me to appreciate it that way because I think what is it? Fortune favors the bold.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You have to take risks and you have to be okay with not everybody liking your shit. When you're trying to make everybody happy, all the fan base is happy at once, you end up with Rise of Sky. You know what I mean?
And that's what I don't think this is gonna happen. but I'm still supposedly they said it's still on, but I don't think it's gonna happen. Is that Ryan Johnson is gonna make his own trilogy, so far away from any of this Skywalker stuff. And
Yeah,
I
just
honestly
to
would
let
like to
have
see
his
his own original
sandbox.
ideas on it.
Sure, sure. I'd like to see a bunch of filmmakers' ideas, see what they do with it.
But
You
yeah,
know?
but again, let's have one person in charge of that. Let's have Dave Filoni make a trilogy. Let's have one director make another trilogy. Let's stop
John
doing this
Favreau.
bullshit where you're passing on the ball to someone else that then tries to do something else, because guess what? It's not their whole thing.
The tonal shift sometimes is too dramatic in the sense where it's jarring,
Yeah,
where you're suddenly not watching what you signed up to watch.
I
You know
think
what
for at least for Star Wars, I don't think the Marvel approach doesn't work for Star Wars, at least in that way, right? Where
I
Star
mean?
Wars in Marvel, you have all these different directors that have their own fun takes on these specific characters, but then they all work together as a collective, right? I think for
And
Star Wars, at least in
they
that
have
way, I don't think it works
Kevin
in the
Feige
same
leading
way,
the
right?
I'm sorry, I cut you off. They have Kevin Feige leading it too, so it's not like you have a bunch of people who think they're king of the castle. You know what I mean?
Right.
And every time the baton gets passed, this guy's calling all the shots, and then they take the baton away from him because all the fans of the other guy got mad. You know?
Exactly.
Um,
And
yeah. So
is Dave
it's
Filoni gonna be
um,
that guy? Who knows? We don't know that, right? I just don't want. I don't want Kevin Feige to be. Because there have been rumors that Kevin Feige is also going to. Well, I don't know if it's already happened, but that he's going to be in charge of Star Wars as well. Because he's already in charge of the Marvel comic books now. Kevin Feige is
yeah.
now head shaker for the comic book series and what those storylines are going down through. And
Really, the
that's
books?
no, yeah, for the books, for the actual comic
Wow,
books. He's a
good for him.
big shaker for that as well, because he wants all of it to tie together.
So he's
And
cleaning them up.
yeah, but at the same time, I have to be a little worried about that, because
Mhm.
then it's all going to become too samey, and then where is the where's the creativity? Where is the thing that
Where's
sets it
the
apart?
yeah? Where's the yeah? But there are
if every,
things
if everyone's super, then no one is.
exactly.
You know?
But there are certain things that in the comic books where they go way too far. Like there was I remember a comic book Blob eats the wasp. He just
Oh
chews on it,
yeah, I
and
remember that was brutal.
it's so grotesque that it's like, how are we supposed to root for this character, the Wasp, who's who's like, how are we supposed to root for this character who's in the comic book, a domestic violence survivor? She's
Yeah,
a
which
she's a
again, I don't
scientist.
mind the
She's
darker
this.
tones and the darker shift, but
I don't either, but who are we rooting for? Are we
yeah,
rooting
yeah,
for this cannibalistic fucking psychopath, or are we rooting for this human being, this fleshed out character who they just turned into fodder for shock value?
right.
I mean, how many times do you see a comic book where they're ripping Tony Stark in half, where they're blowing the chest through War Machine? And I'm cool with that stuff, but it's got to matter. If they do that stuff where it doesn't matter, then I understand where they have to streamline things
But
and be like, look, you
but
can't
isn't
just.
that where some of the campiness comes from? Because I mean, some of these characters have died even several times, and they come back.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Sometimes not for years. Granted, like Phoenix, Jean Grey didn't come back for what, 20 years, right?
Was it 20 years?
Yeah, 20 years since she died as
Jesus
Dark
Christ.
Phoenix. And then guess what? They brought her back. There's a new Jean Grey now, timeline, things like that.
Right, right, right. Damn.
She's trying to prevent Dark Phoenix from happening again.
Yeah. It gets really convoluted. Really.
But that's why you have DC then doing reboots, the 51 initiative, things like that, because
Yeah.
again, it gets so convoluted that you kind of have to do a soft reboot or a hard reboot on the entire series.
Right, right.
But again, that's the fun of that you can do that with comics, though.
Yeah, that's that. And they kind of got some kind of like carte blanche where they can just do whatever they want, so that the filmmakers and keep that hierarchy that the Star Wars films have, and then you know, kind of what happens in the films, that's canon or whatever. Even though they started as comic books, but
Mm.
that way they can, because some of the best storylines that we've gotten in films have come from the comic books, from stories in the comic books. And like for example, like Captain America, we got the 1940s comic books touched on um in the first one, but we jumped 60 fucking years of comic book history between part 1 and part 2,
Right, right.
and that's because it was the best story.
Mm-hmm.
It's a compelling story, and it's the story that made the most sense. The commie smasher and all that shit, that didn't make sense.
I
The
mean,
No Man
I
storyline
feel like
didn't make.
some of them fall off, or maybe they're just not right for the time anymore. Like,
Yeah, they're a
not
reflection
every
of the
run's gonna
time.
be great. I think some runs are gonna be good to okay to maybe it's just straight up awful. Like I thought Thor's God Butcher arc was such a good arc, but then the arc after that was like okay, and then the Jane
Right, right.
Foster arc got really good too. Like I mean,
Yeah, yeah,
not every story is gonna pan out the way they want it to, but
yeah.
that's okay because then you could take
But the fact that they could
the
tie
parts that are established or the smaller parts and then add that to a live action film.
and make it work that way.
Exactly.
Exactly. Cool, man.
Because they already charted those waters. They already knew what worked and what didn't work, or what would
Hmm.
work. Because again, live action is its own beast as well. I understand that as well. Not everything that is in the comic can work for live action too.
Right, right. You don't have, but you know what? I was gonna say you don't have time and that, but after watching Falcon and the Winter Soldier, I mean, it's literally a living comic book. You
Right,
know what I
and
mean?
I'm
And same
glad
thing
we're
with
at that
WandaVision
place in our lives, or at least in
and
media,
technology and
where
film
you
technology.
can do that.
Yeah, I think film technology is in a place where CGI is cheap enough. The people are because of the pandemic, people are at home more than they normally would. Theaters are shut down, so
You have VR technology, the dome that they showed in the Mandalorian
yeah,
making
the
of
volume.
it, again, like you said, it allows the technology for them to make even better shows now at a
Yeah,
fraction of the cost, not even have to go to locations anymore.
yeah,
You don't have to spend
yeah.
money on traveling or getting the actors over to a different.
Or scouting locations, you can just make
Exactly.
it. Yeah, no, that's great.
Well, either way, that was my shoot the captain. We kind of rambled on a little bit there towards the end, but either way, I'm excited for everything that's coming with Star Wars, and hopefully we'll see in a couple years how it all pans out. Either way,
Yeah,
thank you for joining us on episode 3, and we hope to hear from you soon. Be sure to like and subscribe to the channel and follow us on Instagram, Shoot and Loot Outriders, or on Twitter at Shoot and Loot OP. And we're also on TikTok at Shoot and Loot Outriders to be notified of new episodes. Now, get back into the fight, Outriders.